When we begin to think about the human body, it is easy to imagine it as a collection of separate parts, each with its own job. We might think of the heart beating steadily in the chest, or the lungs filling and emptying with air. We might imagine the muscles that allow us to move, or the bones that hold us upright. Yet beneath all of these visible and invisible actions lies something even more fundamental. Every thought, every breath, every heartbeat, and every step depends on energy. That energy does not simply appear within us. It comes from the food and water we take in each day. This is where the digestive system enters the story, quietly and faithfully working to transform what we eat into the raw materials of life itself. The digestive system is often overlooked because its activity is so constant and familiar. We eat, we feel satisfied, and hours later, we are ready to eat again. But beneath that simple cycle lies an intricate process that unfolds slowly and deliberately within us, a process shaped by millions of years of evolution. It is a journey of transformation that begins the moment food touches the lips and does not end until every nutrient is carried to the cells that need it. By following this journey step by step, we can appreciate not only the complexity of the body, but also the quiet harmony with which its many parts cooperate. To begin gently, let us first reflect on the role of digestion in the grand picture of life. All living things must obtain energy. Plants draw it directly from the sun, capturing light and converting it into sugars. Animals, including ourselves, must take another path. We gather our energy indirectly by consuming the plants themselves or by eating other animals that once fed on plants. In this way, the energy of the sun passes from one form of life to another, carried along in a chain that connects every living being. When we eat a piece of fruit, or a slice of bread, or a simple meal of rice, we are receiving the stored sunlight that once fell upon leaves and soil. When we eat meat, fish, or eggs, we are touching a different link in that same chain. The digestive system is the bridge that allows us to receive this energy and make it our own. This journey is not hurried. It unfolds slowly, with care, almost like a quiet ritual repeated each day without end. It begins with the act of eating, a familiar motion of lifting food to the mouth. At that moment, the body is already preparing. Long before the first bite, the mere sight or smell of food can awaken the digestive system. Saliva begins to flow, the stomach gently stirs, and hormones whisper their signals in anticipation. This is sometimes called the cephalic phase of digestion, a term that simply means the process begins in the head, in the senses, and in the brain, before any food is swallowed. Even the thought of a favorite meal can set the system into motion. When food finally enters the mouth, the true journey begins. Yet in this first part of our lecture, we are not yet ready to dive into the details of chewing or swallowing. Instead, we pause at the threshold to consider what lies ahead. For the next 2 hours, we will follow food as it travels through each organ of the digestive tract. We will notice how muscles, fluids, and microscopic structures contribute to the transformation of a meal into molecules. We will explore how carbohydrates become sugars, how proteins unfold into amino acids, and how fats separate into smaller pieces that can be carried by the blood. We will notice the silent contribution of organs such as the liver and pancreas, which lend their secretions at just the right moment. And we will witness the careful work of the large intestine, which gathers what remains, absorbs water, and prepares for elimination. It is important to remember that none of this feels rushed or mechanical inside the body. The digestive system works in rhythms, like gentle waves lapping against the shore. Muscles contract in smooth sequences, guiding food from one chamber to the next. Secretions are released gradually, in response to signals that flow like quiet messages through the nervous and hormonal networks of the body. Digestion is not simply chemistry, it is choreography, a carefully timed dance of motion, pressure, and reaction. As we begin this exploration, it is helpful to imagine the digestive system not as a straight tunnel, but as a long, winding passage that stretches through the center of the body. From the mouth to the rectum, this passage measures nearly 9 meters in length. Along the way, it bends and curves, widening into chambers, narrowing into tubes, and unfolding into loops. At every turn, it encounters a new set of helpers: teeth, muscles, glands, enzymes, and microscopic structures that work together to transform the raw material of food. Some of these helpers are visible to the eye, such as the tongue or the teeth. Others, like the villi of the small intestine or the bacteria of the microbiome, are hidden from view, yet essential to the process. The beauty of the digestive system lies not only in its complexity, but also in its quiet constancy. Whether we are awake or asleep, active or resting, it continues its work. Long after a meal has ended, the body is still digesting, still absorbing, still distributing the energy of food to the tissues that require it. The process can take many hours, sometimes even a full day, before every nutrient has been claimed and every waste product prepared for release. This is why digestion is often described as a journey rather than a moment. It begins with a single bite, but continues long after the taste of food has faded from the tongue. There is also a sense of harmony in this system. Each organ plays its part, yet no single organ can succeed without the others. The mouth begins the work, but the esophagus must carry it forward. The stomach breaks food into smaller pieces, but the small intestine must finish the task by absorbing nutrients. The liver contributes bile, the pancreas contributes enzymes, and the large intestine conserves water. Together, they form a chain of cooperation, each link dependent on the next. If one organ falters, the entire system feels the effect. It is easy to think of digestion as a simple matter of breaking down food. Yet in truth, it is a process of transformation at the deepest level. A slice of bread becomes glucose, a sugar that fuels the brain and muscles. A piece of fish becomes amino acids, which build and repair the tissues of the body. A spoonful of oil becomes fatty acids, which form the membranes of every cell. The digestive system does not merely reduce food to pieces, it changes it into something new, something that the body can recognize and use. In this way, the food that was once separate from us becomes part of us. It becomes energy for movement, strength for muscles, clarity for thought, and warmth for the body. As we rest here in this gentle beginning, let us imagine the quiet journey that lies ahead. The story of digestion is not dramatic, nor is it rushed. It is steady, patient, and deeply essential. Over the course of the next parts, we will follow this journey in detail, noticing the contribution of each organ and the flow of each step. We will see how the body takes what it needs and how it maintains a delicate balance with each meal. For now, it is enough to appreciate the presence of this system within us. Day and night, without pause, it carries out its work, unseen, yet indispensable. In its steady rhythm, we find a reflection of life itself, patient, interconnected, and quietly enduring. This is the gentle beginning of the digestive journey, and it invites us to follow it step by step in calm awareness and in restful curiosity. 2. The body's need for nourishment. To understand digestion fully, we must first reflect on the very reason it exists. Every living being, no matter how small or how large, must take in energy and materials to remain alive. The body is not static. It is constantly changing, constantly repairing itself, and constantly responding to the world around it. Even as we sit quietly, listening or drifting toward rest, billions of tiny processes are unfolding within us. Cells divide, proteins are built, waste is removed, and energy flows through invisible pathways. None of this could happen without nourishment. When we use the word nourishment, we speak of more than food. We are speaking of the complete support system that sustains the body. This includes the macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that provide energy and structure. It includes micronutrients, such as vitamins and minerals, that guide countless chemical reactions and help maintain balance. And it includes water, the simple and abundant fluid that carries nutrients, regulates temperature, and makes up the majority of our very being. Nourishment is, in essence, the partnership between the outside world and our inner world. The digestive system is the bridge that connects these two realms. Consider the quiet work of the body even in the simplest moment. A single heartbeat requires energy. To pump blood, the heart muscle must contract. That contraction depends on energy stored in molecules called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Each of those molecules must be replenished continuously. They are built from glucose, fatty acids, and sometimes amino acids, all delivered by digestion. In this way, every heartbeat is a small reminder of the body's need for nourishment. Without food to provide raw materials, the heart would grow weak, and life itself would falter. The brain, too, that intricate organ of thought, depends heavily on nourishment. Although it weighs only a small fraction of the body, the brain consumes a significant share of the body's energy, often around 1/5 of the total. Its preferred fuel is glucose, a simple sugar that comes from the digestion of carbohydrates. When we eat bread, rice, fruit, or other carbohydrate-rich foods, we provide the brain with what it needs to sustain thought, memory, and awareness. If glucose runs low, the brain quickly signals the body with feelings of hunger or fatigue, gently reminding us of our ongoing need for energy. Proteins in food, once digested into amino acids, are just as vital. They are the building blocks of growth and repair. The body is never still. Cells wear out and must be replaced. Tissues are damaged and must be healed, and enzymes are constantly being renewed. All of this requires amino acids. They form muscles, skin, and hair. They shape the structure of hormones and enzymes. They are essential for the immune system, allowing it to build antibodies that protect us from illness. Each time we eat a source of protein, perhaps beans, fish, eggs, or seeds, we are supplying the raw material for this quiet, ongoing renewal. Fats, though sometimes misunderstood, are equally necessary. They are a concentrated source of energy, storing more than twice the calories of carbohydrates or proteins. But beyond energy, fats are structural. They form the membranes of every cell, thin layers that separate the inside from the outside and allow life to exist in balance. Certain fats, called essential fatty acids, cannot be made by the body at all. They must come from the foods we eat. Without them, cells lose their stability, nerves lose their insulation, and the body's systems lose their harmony. The digestive system ensures that these fats, once broken down, are absorbed and distributed to where they are most needed. Vitamins and minerals, though required only in small amounts, are perhaps the most delicate part of nourishment. They act as guides and helpers for the body's chemistry. Vitamin D helps regulate calcium, strengthening bones. Vitamin C assists in healing wounds and supporting the immune system. The B vitamins fuel metabolism, while vitamin A supports vision and the health of tissues. Minerals, too, like iron, calcium, potassium, and magnesium, are quietly essential. Iron allows blood to carry oxygen. Calcium strengthens bones and triggers muscle contractions. Potassium maintains balance in fluids and nerves. Magnesium plays a role in hundreds of biochemical reactions. Though small in size, these nutrients are vital threads in the tapestry of life. And then there is water. We may not always think of water as nourishment, yet it is the most fundamental of all. More than half of the human body is water, flowing through blood, bathing cells, cushioning joints, and cooling the body when it grows warm. Water is the medium in which every chemical reaction takes place. It carries nutrients to cells, removes waste, and allows life to continue in steady rhythm. Without water, the digestive system itself cannot function. For saliva, gastric juice, bile, and all other digestive fluids depend upon it. To speak of nourishment without water would be to leave out the very essence of life's balance. The body does not take in nourishment at random. It follows patterns of need, guided by signals from the brain, hormones, and nerves. Hunger arises when energy grows low, encouraging us to eat. Thirst awakens when water runs short, guiding us to drink. Satiety, or fullness, tells us when to stop, protecting us from excess. These signals reflect an ancient wisdom built into our physiology, ensuring that we seek the nourishment we require. Of course, in modern times, these signals may be overshadowed by habit, culture, or environment. Yet at its core, the body remains a sensitive instrument, attuned to its needs. The digestive system is the pathway by which all of this nourishment enters and is transformed. Without digestion, food would remain inert, unable to enter the blood or reach the cells. A slice of fruit or a handful of nuts would simply pass through without effect. Digestion makes food usable. It breaks down the large and complex molecules of nature into the simple forms that cells can accept. In this way, digestion is not simply about eating, it is about becoming. The food we take in is not separate from us for long. Through digestion, it is made into us, into our muscles, our bones, our energy, and even our thoughts. To reflect on the body's need for nourishment is also to reflect on its delicate balance. Too little food, and the body weakens. Too much, and the systems are burdened. Too little of a vitamin, and deficiency appears. Too much, and toxicity may occur. The digestive system plays its part in maintaining balance, absorbing what is needed, filtering what is excess, and passing along what cannot be used. It is not a perfect system, but it is remarkably adaptive, adjusting to a wide variety of diets and circumstances. In the quiet rhythm of life, nourishment is a constant cycle. We eat, we digest, we absorb, and we use. The energy flows outward into every action we take. Whether lifting a hand, speaking a word, or simply resting in silence. As that energy is spent, the body reminds us gently to seek food again, and the cycle continues. This is the essence of our dependence on nourishment, not as an interruption to life, but as life itself, sustained by the steady partnership between the outer world and the inner body. As we prepare to move into the next stage of this lecture, where we will begin tracing the actual anatomy of the digestive system, it is helpful to hold this truth gently in mind. Digestion exists to meet the body's need for nourishment. Every bite we eat is more than a moment of flavor. It is part of a much larger rhythm of giving and receiving, of taking in the world and weaving it into the fabric of who we are. The body's need for nourishment is constant, quiet, and profound. It is a reminder that life is not lived in isolation, but in connection with food, with water, with the earth, and with the systems within us that transform these gifts into the energy of life. 3. The architecture of the digestive system. To continue our journey into the world of digestion, we must now turn our attention to the architecture of the digestive system itself. If one were to imagine the body as a grand city, with networks of roads, buildings, and hidden passageways, then the digestive system would be its long central avenue, stretching from the mouth at one end to the rectum at the other. Along this avenue lie neighborhoods and stations, each with a special role, each prepared to take part in the slow transformation of food into life-sustaining energy. The digestive system is not a single organ, but rather a collection of organs linked together into one continuous passage, known as the gastrointestinal tract. Supporting this tract are accessory organs, like trusted allies, that pour their secretions into the system at precisely the right moments. This tract, winding and looping through the body, is far longer than most imagine. From mouth to rectum, it measures roughly 9 meters in length, coiled and folded within the abdominal cavity. At first glance, it may seem unusual to house such a long passage inside the human frame, but this length serves an essential purpose. Food must be given time to break down, to be acted upon by enzymes and acids, to be absorbed into the bloodstream, and finally to have its remains gathered and prepared for elimination. Every curve, every chamber, every section of the digestive tract plays a role in this extended process. The journey begins with the mouth, a familiar entrance that serves as the gateway to the entire system. Here, teeth, tongue, and salivary glands begin the work of digestion, though in the gentlest of ways. The mouth does not simply serve as a portal, but as a preparatory chamber. Food is broken into smaller pieces, moistened, and mixed with saliva, which already contains enzymes to begin the chemical work of digestion. From here, the food passes into the pharynx, and then into the esophagus, the first of many specialized tubes that will guide it along its path. The esophagus is a muscular corridor that stretches from the throat to the stomach. It does not digest food itself, but it provides safe passage. Within its walls, smooth muscles contract in waves, a movement known as peristalsis that gently pushes the swallowed food downward. At the base of the esophagus lies a muscular ring called the lower esophageal sphincter, which opens to allow food into the stomach and closes to prevent it from rising back upward. In this way, the esophagus is like a quiet transport system, ensuring that food moves in the right direction, never backward, never too fast, but always steadily onward. Beyond the esophagus lies the stomach, a muscular chamber shaped somewhat like a pouch. The stomach is both a reservoir and a workshop. It can expand to hold large amounts of food, keeping it safely stored until the body is ready to process it further. But the stomach does more than hold. It mixes, churns, and bathes food in gastric juice, a fluid rich in acid and enzymes that begins the deeper breakdown of proteins. After several hours of this mixing, the once recognizable food is transformed into a semi-liquid substance known as chyme. The stomach then releases this chyme slowly, in measured amounts, into the small intestine. The small intestine, despite its name, is by no means small. It is in fact the longest portion of the digestive tract, measuring about 6 meters in length. It is divided into 3 regions: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The duodenum, the first section, receives chyme from the stomach, as well as bile from the liver and enzymes from the pancreas. This is the chamber where digestion becomes most intense, where proteins, fats, and carbohydrates are broken down into their simplest forms. The jejunum and ileum, which follow, are the true absorbers. Their inner surfaces are lined with tiny, finger-like projections called villi, and even smaller hair-like structures called microvilli, creating a vast surface area for nutrients to enter the bloodstream. Through this delicate lining, sugars, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals all pass into the body's circulation, ready to be delivered to every tissue that requires them. Supporting the small intestine are 3 accessory organs: the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. The liver is the largest internal organ, a deep reddish-brown structure that performs a multitude of tasks. In digestion, its primary contribution is the production of bile, a greenish fluid that helps break apart fats into droplets small enough for enzymes to act upon. The gallbladder, nestled beneath the liver, stores this bile until it is needed, releasing it in steady amounts into the duodenum. The pancreas, lying just behind the stomach, produces powerful digestive enzymes, as well as bicarbonate, which neutralizes the stomach acid in chyme. Together, these 3 organs are indispensable partners, ensuring that food is not only broken down but also rendered harmless and balanced before absorption. Once food has passed through the small intestine and the nutrients have been absorbed, what remains enters the large intestine, sometimes called the colon. Though shorter in length, about 1.5 meters, the large intestine plays a vital role in maintaining the body's balance. Its main tasks are to reabsorb water and electrolytes, and to host a vast community of microorganisms that assist in the final stages of digestion. Within its folds and chambers, bacteria help break down fibers, produce vitamins such as vitamin K, and contribute to the health of the gut. Slowly, the material left behind is compacted into solid waste, ready for elimination. At the end of this passage lies the rectum, the final storage site before elimination. The rectum holds waste until the body is ready to release it, completing the journey that began with a single bite of food. Though often overlooked in conversation, this final act of elimination is essential to health, for it clears the body of what it cannot use, maintaining balance and preventing harm. When seen as a whole, the architecture of the digestive system is both practical and elegant. From mouth to rectum, each organ is positioned with purpose, each step following naturally from the one before it. The system is long, yet compactly folded within the abdominal cavity. It is diverse, with organs that chew, mix, secrete, absorb, and eliminate. And yet, it is unified, all parts working together to transform food into the very essence of life. It is worth pausing to appreciate the quiet cooperation among these organs. The stomach cannot absorb most nutrients, but it prepares them for the small intestine, which in turn cannot succeed without bile and enzymes from the liver and pancreas. The large intestine cannot digest complex fibers alone, but it relies on the bacteria of the microbiome to assist. Each organ knows its role and plays it faithfully. None works in isolation. The digestive system is not merely a sequence of parts, but a network of relationships, each organ helping the others, each organ depending on the rest. As we rest with this image of the digestive system's architecture, we begin to see it not just as a biological structure, but as a model of harmony. Within the human frame, a long passage stretches and folds, guided by chambers and helpers, always moving forward in rhythm, never hurried, never lost. The architecture of digestion is a reminder that life is built upon balance, cooperation, and continuity. In the next stage of our journey, we will step into the first chamber of this system, the mouth, and begin to notice how the process truly starts. 4. The role of the mouth. When we think of digestion, many of us imagine the stomach first, with its acids and churning muscles, or perhaps the long, winding coils of the small intestine, where nutrients are absorbed. Yet digestion truly begins in a much humbler place, the mouth. It is here, at the gateway of the digestive tract, that the body makes its first and perhaps most underestimated contribution to the journey of food. The mouth is far more than a passageway. It is a chamber of preparation, where food is broken down both mechanically and chemically, where senses awaken to guide the process, and where the act of eating transforms from simple intake into the beginning of nourishment. The mouth is structured in a way that reflects its many roles. Its most visible tools are the teeth, those rows of enamel-tipped structures that vary in shape and function. At the front are the incisors, sharp and flat, designed for biting and cutting into food. Beside them are the canines, pointed and strong, capable of tearing tougher materials like meat. Farther back are the premolars and molars, broad and ridged, whose flattened surfaces grind and crush food into smaller fragments. Together, these teeth perform the first task of digestion, mechanical breakdown. By reducing food into smaller pieces, the teeth increase the surface area that digestive enzymes will later act upon, making the work of the stomach and intestines far more efficient. But the teeth do not work alone. They are guided by the tongue, a muscular organ that is both strong and flexible. The tongue moves food around the mouth, pressing it against the teeth for chewing, mixing it with saliva, and eventually shaping it into a soft mass called a bolus, ready for swallowing. The tongue is also home to taste buds, those tiny sensory receptors that allow us to detect flavors: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Taste, though often thought of as pleasure, is in fact a survival tool. Sweetness signals energy-rich carbohydrates. Salt points to essential minerals. Sourness may alert us to unripe or spoiled foods, while bitterness warns of potential toxins. Umami, the savory taste, reflects the presence of proteins. In this way, the tongue not only moves food, but also evaluates it, guiding choices that support survival and health. Surrounding these structures is saliva, the quiet yet essential fluid that bathes the mouth. Saliva is secreted by 3 major pairs of salivary glands: the parotid glands near the cheeks, the submandibular glands beneath the jaw, and the sublingual glands under the tongue. This fluid serves multiple purposes. First, it moistens food, making it easier to chew and swallow. Dry food, such as a cracker, quickly becomes difficult to move without saliva, but with it, the food softens and glides more smoothly. Second, saliva contains mucus, which adds lubrication, and enzymes, which begin chemical digestion. The most important of these enzymes is salivary amylase, which starts breaking down starches into simpler sugars. Another, called lingual lipase, plays a role in fat digestion, though its activity is more significant later in the stomach. Thus, even before food leaves the mouth, the transformation has begun. The mouth also engages the senses beyond taste. As we chew, volatile molecules from food travel up the back of the throat into the nasal cavity, where olfactory receptors detect them. This is why the aroma of food enhances its flavor, and why a blocked nose during illness dulls the experience of eating. Sight, too, influences digestion, with the appearance of food triggering anticipatory responses in saliva and gastric activity. Even the sound of food, such as the crispness of a bite, adds to the sensory experience, guiding us toward foods that are fresh and wholesome. Chewing, or mastication, may seem like a simple task, but it is remarkably sophisticated. Muscles of the jaw contract and relax in coordinated rhythms, moving the teeth up and down, side to side, grinding and crushing. The temporomandibular joints, located just in front of the ears, provide the hinge-like motion, while also allowing subtle shifts and rotations for complex chewing patterns. The brain oversees this motion automatically, though we can consciously choose how long to chew or when to swallow. Chewing not only reduces food to manageable fragments, but also increases its contact with saliva, ensuring that enzymatic digestion has time to begin. Once chewing is complete, the tongue gathers the softened food into a bolus and moves it to the back of the mouth, toward the pharynx. This moment marks the transition from voluntary to involuntary control. Swallowing begins as a conscious act, but quickly becomes reflexive. Muscles of the throat contract in sequence, pushing the bolus downward, while a small flap called the epiglottis closes over the trachea, ensuring that food enters the esophagus and not the airway. This careful coordination allows us to eat without choking, a process so smooth we rarely notice it unless something goes wrong. It is worth noting that the mouth is also a place of protection. Saliva contains not only enzymes but also antimicrobial compounds, such as lysozyme, which help defend against bacteria and other microbes that might enter with food. The mouth is the body's first checkpoint, testing and preparing food before it continues deeper into the digestive tract. By moistening, breaking down, and cleansing, the mouth ensures that what enters the esophagus is ready for safe passage. When we pause to reflect on the role of the mouth, we begin to see it as far more than the entry point of the digestive system. It is a chamber of preparation, evaluation, and defense. Here, food is tasted, tested, softened, and transformed. Here, the senses of taste and smell join with touch and sight to create the experience of eating. Here, enzymes begin the first quiet steps of chemical digestion, while muscles and teeth perform their mechanical tasks. The mouth sets the rhythm, guiding food into the system in manageable amounts and signaling to the rest of the digestive tract to prepare for what is coming. In everyday life, we often overlook this stage. We may eat quickly, hardly chewing before swallowing, rushing to the next task. Yet digestion is most effective when the mouth is given time to perform its work. Slow chewing not only aids mechanical and chemical breakdown, but also allows the brain to register fullness, helping maintain balance in how much we eat. Though simple in action, The role of the mouth has profound effects on the entire digestive process that follows. As we conclude this reflection on the mouth, we find a quiet appreciation for its place in the architecture of digestion. The teeth, tongue, saliva, and senses all come together in harmony, ensuring that the first step of nourishment is taken with care. With food softened into a bolus and enzymes already at work, the journey is ready to continue. In the next stage, we will follow this bolus as it passes through the esophagus, guided by rhythmic waves of muscle toward the waiting chamber of the stomach. 5. Swallowing and the esophagus. As the process of chewing comes to an end, and food has been carefully softened, moistened, and mixed with saliva, a quiet transition takes place. What was once a collection of raw pieces of food has now been shaped into a soft, rounded form called a bolus. This bolus is not yet ready for absorption, but it is now safe to travel deeper into the body. At this moment, the task of the mouth yields to the next part of the digestive system, a passageway designed for transport rather than breakdown. This is the esophagus, a long, muscular tube that guides food from the throat to the stomach. Before the bolus enters the esophagus, however, it must first pass through the act of swallowing. Swallowing may feel like a simple action, yet it is one of the most beautifully coordinated reflexes in the body. It begins voluntarily, with the decision to push the bolus to the back of the mouth, using the tongue. The tongue presses upward and backward, rolling the bolus toward the pharynx, the shared chamber that serves both the digestive and respiratory systems. In this moment, a decision must be made. The pharynx is a crossroads. One path leads forward into the trachea, the airway that carries air to the lungs, and the other path leads downward into the esophagus, the route that delivers food to the stomach. The body ensures that the bolus takes the correct path through an elegant mechanism. As swallowing begins, the larynx, or voice box, lifts upward, and a small flap of cartilage, called the epiglottis, folds down to cover the entrance to the trachea. At the same time, the soft palate rises to close off the nasal passages, preventing food from entering the nose. These movements happen almost instantly, without conscious thought, protecting both the airway and the nasal passages. The bolus is directed smoothly into the esophagus, where the next stage of the journey begins. The esophagus itself is about 25 centimeters in length, a flexible tube that extends from the base of the throat down to the stomach. It lies behind the trachea and in front of the spine, a hidden passage that we rarely notice yet use every time we eat or drink. Unlike the mouth or stomach, the esophagus does not produce enzymes or secretions for digestion. Its role is transport, and it performs this task with remarkable precision. The movement of the bolus through the esophagus is driven by peristalsis, a wave-like pattern of muscular contractions. The walls of the esophagus contain 2 layers of smooth muscle, an inner circular layer and an outer longitudinal layer. As the circular muscles contract just behind the bolus, the passage narrows, pushing the bolus forward. Meanwhile, the longitudinal muscles contract slightly ahead of the bolus, shortening that section of the esophagus and making room for the food to move. This coordinated rhythm propels the bolus steadily downward, like a gentle wave carrying a small boat along a calm stream. Peristalsis is so reliable that it can move food even against gravity. If you drink water while lying down, or even upside down, the liquid will still reach your stomach. The muscles of the esophagus respond automatically, guided by signals from the nervous system, ensuring that the bolus always moves in the correct direction. This process is largely involuntary. Once the swallow reflex is triggered, the body takes over completely, carrying the bolus from throat to stomach without need for conscious control. At the lower end of the esophagus lies an important structure known as the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES. This muscular ring marks the boundary between the esophagus and the stomach. Most of the time, the LES remains tightly closed, forming a barrier that prevents stomach acid from flowing upward into the esophagus. When the peristaltic wave carries the bolus to the end of the tube, the sphincter relaxes, allowing the bolus to pass into the stomach. Once the food has entered, the sphincter closes again, sealing the stomach from above. This simple but effective system protects the esophagus, which is not built to withstand the corrosive effects of stomach acid. When the sphincter weakens or fails to close properly, acid can sometimes escape into the esophagus, a condition known as reflux. The burning sensation of heartburn is a reminder of how important this muscular gateway truly is. Under normal circumstances, however, the sphincter performs its duty faithfully, opening only to admit food and drink, then closing to guard the passage above. Though the esophagus is often described as a simple transport tube, it has its own quiet elegance. It responds to the texture and size of the bolus, adjusting the strength of its contractions. It coordinates perfectly with the pharynx above and the stomach below, creating a seamless flow. Its lining, made of protective epithelial cells, resists the friction of food sliding downward. Small glands in the wall of the esophagus secrete mucus to ease the passage, ensuring that the bolus glides smoothly from beginning to end. The entire journey through the esophagus is swift. In just a matter of seconds, the bolus moves from the throat to the stomach. Yet in that short time, a remarkable series of events unfolds. The protection of the airway, the initiation of peristalsis, the guided contractions of muscle, and the precise opening and closing of the sphincter. These actions happen so naturally that we rarely notice them, unless something goes wrong, such as when swallowing becomes difficult or when food moves more slowly than expected. In reflecting on this stage of digestion, we can appreciate the balance between simplicity and complexity. The esophagus has only one task to move food from one place to another, yet the smoothness of that movement depends on a remarkable orchestration of muscles, reflexes, and protective structures. It is a silent passage, uncelebrated, yet essential. Without it, the rest of digestion could not begin. As the bolus passes through the lower esophageal sphincter and enters the stomach, it reaches a chamber unlike any it has encountered before. The stomach is not merely a passageway, but a place of transformation, where food is churned, bathed in acid, and broken down into forms the small intestine can later absorb. In the next part of our journey, we will enter this muscular chamber, observing how it takes the simple bolus delivered by the esophagus and begins the deeper work of digestion. 6. The stomach's muscular chamber. As food leaves the esophagus and passes through the lower esophageal sphincter, it enters one of the most remarkable chambers of the digestive system, the stomach. Nestled in the upper left side of the abdomen, just beneath the diaphragm, the stomach is both a reservoir and a workshop. It is here that food undergoes one of its greatest transformations. What entered as a soft bolus from the mouth and esophagus is gradually reshaped into a thick, soupy mixture known as chyme, ready for release into the small intestine. The stomach itself is shaped somewhat like the letter J, with a rounded upper region and a narrower lower end. Though its appearance is modest from the outside, its abilities are extraordinary. When empty, the stomach is about the size of a clenched fist, yet it has the ability to expand dramatically, stretching its muscular walls to hold as much as 2 liters of food and liquid at once. This capacity allows humans to eat meals that can sustain the body for hours, even when food is not constantly available. The stomach, then, serves as a temporary storage chamber, holding food, while the rest of the digestive system prepares to process it further. But the stomach is more than a storage site. Its thick muscular walls are designed for constant motion. The inner lining is thrown into folds called rugae, which flatten as the stomach expands and contract as it empties. Within these walls, 3 layers of smooth muscle lie in different orientations, one running lengthwise, another circling around, and a third slanting diagonally. These layers contract in coordinated rhythms, churning the stomach's contents. With each wave of contraction, food is mixed with gastric juice, broken into smaller fragments, and turned over and over until it takes on a uniform texture. This motion is both gentle and persistent, like the steady kneading of dough, transforming solid bites of food into a fluid mixture. Gastric juice, secreted by millions of tiny glands in the stomach's lining, is the second great force of transformation. This fluid is a combination of hydrochloric acid, enzymes, mucus, and water. Hydrochloric acid gives gastric juice its strongly acidic nature, lowering the pH of the stomach to around 2, a level capable of dissolving many substances and killing most microbes that may have entered with food. This acidity is not harmful to the stomach itself, because the lining secretes mucus that coats and protects the tissues from damage. Within this acidic environment, enzymes begin their work. The most important is pepsin, which breaks proteins into smaller fragments called peptides. Proteins are complex molecules, tightly folded into intricate shapes. Pepsin unfolds these structures and begins to cut the long chains of amino acids into shorter lengths, preparing them for further breakdown in the small intestine. Another enzyme, gastric lipase, begins the slow digestion of certain fats. Though fat digestion is not completed here, the combination of acid, enzymes, and muscular motion makes the stomach a true chamber of transformation. The stomach does not release all its contents at once into the small intestine. Instead, it delivers chyme in small, carefully measured amounts. At the lower end of the stomach lies the pyloric sphincter, a muscular valve that opens and closes rhythmically. Each time it opens, a small portion of chyme passes into the duodenum, the first section of the small intestine. In this way, the stomach regulates the flow, ensuring that the small intestine receives only as much material as it can handle at a time. This measured release is essential, for it allows digestion and absorption to proceed smoothly downstream. The stomach's activities are guided by an intricate network of signals. The nervous system plays a central role, with the vagus nerve carrying messages from the brain to stimulate gastric secretions and contractions. At the same time, hormones such as gastrin are released from cells in the stomach lining, encouraging the production of acid and enzymes. These signals ensure that the stomach is most active when food is present and quiets down when it is empty. Even the thought, smell, or sight of food can activate the stomach in advance, preparing it for the meal to come. Though the stomach is powerful, it is also finely balanced. Its protective mucus barrier must remain intact to shield it from its own acid. If this barrier weakens, ulcers can form, painful sores in the lining. Normally, however, the balance is maintained, and the stomach carries out its tasks faithfully. One of the more subtle roles of the stomach is the regulation of appetite. As the stomach stretches with food, stretch receptors in its walls send signals to the brain, contributing to the sensation of fullness. This feedback helps prevent overeating, reminding us when the body has had enough. The stomach, therefore, is not only a chamber of digestion, but also a regulator of balance between hunger and satiety. The transformation that takes place in the stomach is not immediate. Food may remain here for 2 to 4 hours, depending on its composition. A light meal of fruit may pass through more quickly, while a heavy meal rich in fats and proteins may linger longer. During this time, the stomach patiently continues its work, mixing, churning, and dissolving until everything is ready for the next stage. To pause and reflect upon the stomach is to appreciate its dual nature. It is both a storehouse and a workshop, both a protector and a transformer. It receives food in the form of the bolus and prepares it for the delicate absorptive processes of the small intestine. Without the stomach's careful preparation, the work of digestion further along would be far more difficult. As the chyme is released in measured amounts into the duodenum, it encounters new allies: bile from the liver, enzymes from the pancreas, and the vast absorptive surface of the small intestine. In the next part of our journey, we will step into this region, beginning with the duodenum, the gateway where the stomach's work joins forces with the secretions of other organs to continue the process of digestion. 7. Gateway of digestion. As the pyloric sphincter at the base of the stomach opens, it allows the chyme, that smooth, partially digested mixture of food and gastric secretions, to leave the stomach and enter the small intestine. The very first section of this long winding passage is called the duodenum. Though it is only about 25 to 30 centimeters in length, its importance is immense. In many ways, it acts as the gateway of digestion, a place where the stomach's work is joined by the secretions of other organs, and where the transformation of food becomes more intricate and complete. The duodenum curves gently in a C shape around the head of the pancreas, creating a chamber that is perfectly positioned to receive the flow of gastric contents on one side, and the contributions of the pancreas and liver on the other. It is here that the acidic chyme, released in small portions from the stomach, encounters bile, bicarbonate, and digestive enzymes. This meeting marks a turning point in digestion, where the harsh environment of the stomach gives way to a more balanced and finely tuned process, carefully designed to prepare nutrients for absorption. One of the first challenges that chyme faces upon entering the duodenum is its acidity. Gastric juice is highly acidic, with a pH often around 2. While this is ideal for the stomach's role in breaking down proteins and killing microbes, it would be harmful to the delicate lining of the small intestine. To protect the intestine and create a favorable environment for enzymes, the pancreas secretes bicarbonate, a mild alkaline fluid that neutralizes the acid. As bicarbonate mixes with chyme, the pH rises to a safer level, closer to neutral. This neutralization is essential, for many of the enzymes that continue digestion can only function in a less acidic setting. Alongside bicarbonate, the pancreas provides powerful digestive enzymes. These include amylases, which continue the breakdown of carbohydrates into simple sugars, proteases, which cut proteins into smaller peptides, and eventually amino acids, and lipases, which act upon fats. Each of these enzymes is highly specific, targeting particular chemical bonds and breaking them apart with precision. In the stomach, proteins were unfolded and partially cut by pepsin, but here, in the duodenum, the process accelerates, with proteases completing the work in stages. Fats, which are not easily dissolved in water, face an additional challenge. one that is solved by another remarkable contribution: bile. Bile is produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder, waiting for the right moment to be released. When fatty chyme enters the duodenum, hormones signal the gallbladder to contract, sending bile down the bile duct into the intestine. Bile is not an enzyme but an emulsifier. It contains bile salts, which surround fat droplets and break them into much smaller particles, a process called emulsification. This action increases the surface area of fat, making it more accessible to pancreatic lipase. Without bile, fats would remain in large clumps, resistant to digestion. With bile, they are divided into tiny droplets that enzymes can easily act upon. The duodenum is not merely a mixing chamber, it is also a regulator. Within its walls are specialized cells that release hormones to control the pace of digestion. One such hormone, secretin, is released when acidic chyme enters the duodenum. Secretin signals the pancreas to release bicarbonate, helping to neutralize the acid. Another hormone, cholecystokinin, often shortened to CCK, is secreted in response to fats and proteins. It stimulates the pancreas to release enzymes and tells the gallbladder to contract, delivering bile to the intestine. These hormones ensure that digestive secretions are released at the right time, in the right amounts, in harmony with the arrival of chyme. The lining of the duodenum itself is richly folded, with finger-like projections called villi and smaller hair-like microvilli that together create an enormous surface area. While most absorption of nutrients takes place farther along in the jejunum and ileum, the duodenum begins this process, particularly for minerals like iron and calcium. The villi are lined with cells that actively transport nutrients into the bloodstream, passing them into capillaries and lymphatic vessels that carry them to the rest of the body. Another important feature of the duodenum is its role as a checkpoint. Because the stomach releases chyme in small amounts, the duodenum has time to test, adjust, and prepare. If chyme arrives too quickly, the duodenum can send signals back to the stomach to slow its emptying, ensuring that the system does not become overwhelmed. In this way, the duodenum acts as a guardian of balance, coordinating the contributions of the stomach, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder, and maintaining the rhythm of digestion. Though small in size, the duodenum embodies the theme of cooperation that defines the digestive system. It does not act alone, but rather serves as the meeting place for multiple organs, harmonizing their efforts into a single process. The stomach provides chyme, the pancreas offers enzymes and bicarbonate, the liver produces bile, and the gallbladder delivers it at the right moment. The duodenum oversees this convergence, ensuring that everything is blended, neutralized, and prepared for the longer journey through the small intestine. If we pause to reflect, the duodenum resembles a gateway in the truest sense. It is a threshold where food passes from one phase of digestion to the next, from mechanical churning and acid breakdown to chemical precision and absorption. It is both a chamber of transformation and a chamber of regulation, quietly balancing the many forces at play. As the chyme leaves the duodenum, it enters the longer stretches of the small intestine, the jejunum and ileum. Here, the work of absorption will dominate, as the nutrients now finely prepared are drawn into the bloodstream and lymph. In the next part of our journey, we will follow chyme into the jejunum and ileum, observing how the body claims the energy and building blocks it requires from every meal. 8. The jejunum and ileum. Absorption in motion. After the chyme has passed through the duodenum, where it was carefully mixed with bile, enzymes, and bicarbonate, It moves into the next two sections of the small intestine, the jejunum and the ileum. These two regions, though different in subtle ways, share the same great task, the absorption of nutrients. If the stomach and duodenum were workshops of transformation, the jejunum and ileum are vast markets of exchange, where digested molecules are quietly gathered and passed into the body's circulation. It is here that the energy and materials of food are finally claimed, no longer separate from us, but made into part of us. The jejunum, the middle portion of the small intestine, stretches for about 2.5 meters. It begins just after the duodenum and is characterized by tall, closely packed folds of tissue that create a large surface area. These folds, called pliques circulares, slow the passage of chyme, ensuring that it lingers long enough for nutrients to be absorbed. Rising from these folds are finger-like projections known as villi, and on each villus are countless microscopic structures called microvilli. Together, these form what is known as the brush border, an intricate landscape that multiplies the available surface area for absorption. It is estimated that the total surface area of the small intestine is about the size of a tennis court, a vast expanse hidden within the folds of the abdomen, devoted entirely to the capture of nutrients. Within this landscape, the work of absorption begins in earnest. Carbohydrates, once broken down into simple sugars such as glucose, galactose, and fructose, are transported across the brush border and into the bloodstream. Proteins, reduced to amino acids and small peptides, are carried into the blood as well, ready to be distributed to muscles, organs, and tissues in need of repair or growth. Fats, however, take a different route. After bile salts emulsify them and lipase breaks them into fatty acids and glycerol, they form tiny droplets called micelles, which slip between the microvilli and are absorbed into the cells lining the intestine. Inside these cells, the fats are reassembled into triglycerides, packaged into particles called chylomicrons, and then released into the lymphatic system before eventually entering the bloodstream. This unique pathway ensures that fats, being less soluble in water, are carried efficiently throughout the body. The brush border itself is not a passive surface. It contains enzymes anchored to its membrane, called brush border enzymes, that perform the final steps of digestion. Disaccharides like maltose, sucrose, and lactose are split into their component sugars right at the edge of absorption. Small peptides are clipped into single amino acids just as they cross the membrane. In this way, the jejunum does not simply absorb what arrives, it completes the process, ensuring that molecules are in their simplest, most usable forms. The ileum, which follows the jejunum, is the longest section of the small intestine, measuring about 3.5 meters. Though it continues the absorption of sugars, amino acids, and fats, its primary role is to capture what remains vitamins, bile salts, and other nutrients that the body cannot afford to waste. Vitamin B12, for instance, is absorbed only in the ileum, with the help of a protein called intrinsic factor that was released earlier in the stomach. Bile salts, which are precious for fat digestion, are reabsorbed here and sent back to the liver for reuse, a cycle known as the enterohepatic circulation. In this way, the ileum serves as a careful collector, ensuring that nothing of value passes through unclaimed. Both the jejunum and ileum are richly supplied with blood vessels and lymphatic channels that carry absorbed nutrients away. Capillaries within the villi transport sugars and amino acids into the bloodstream, which flows first to the liver through the portal vein. The liver then processes and distributes these nutrients according to the body's needs. Lymphatic vessels, called lacteals, carry chylomicrons filled with fats into the lymph, which eventually drains into the bloodstream near the heart. This division of pathways ensures that every type of nutrient reaches its destination in a timely and organized fashion. The motion of chyme through the jejunum and ileum is guided by peristalsis, the same wave-like contractions that moved food through the esophagus. But here they are, gentler, alternating with rhythmic segmental contractions. These segmental movements mix the chyme, pressing it back and forth against the villi, increasing contact with the absorptive surfaces. It is not a hurried process. The chyme lingers, sometimes for hours, giving the small intestine the time it needs to draw out nutrients completely. The environment of the small intestine is also shaped by its community of microbes. While the colon holds the greatest concentration of bacteria, the jejunum and ileum contain their own populations that assist in digestion and produce certain compounds. These microbes are partners in health, living in balance with the body, and their presence helps maintain a stable internal environment. The overall efficiency of absorption in the jejunum and ileum is remarkable. Nearly all the nutrients that the body requires are captured here. By the time chyme reaches the end of the ileum, little remains but water, fiber, and waste products. These materials will continue into the large intestine, where a different kind of processing awaits. To reflect on the jejunum and ileum is to appreciate the elegance of absorption in motion. Food has already been broken down by the mouth, stomach, and duodenum, but here it is truly claimed. The sugars of bread and fruit, the amino acids of beans and meat, the fats of oils and seeds, the vitamins and minerals of vegetables, all are gathered silently into the blood and lymph, delivered to every cell that requires them. The body, through these winding passages, accepts what it needs from the outside world and makes it part of its inner life. The jejunum and ileum remind us that digestion is not merely about breaking food apart, but about connection. What we eat is not separate from us for long. It passes through folds, villi, and microvilli, crossing thin membranes into our circulation, until it is no longer food but flesh, energy, thought, and breath. This quiet union, performed millions of times each day in every person, is one of the most intimate acts of biology. As chyme reaches the end of the ileum, the journey through the small intestine comes to a close. What remains is passed onward through the ileocecal valve into the large intestine, where water will be reclaimed, microbes will complete their work, and waste will be prepared for elimination. Before we reach that final stage, however, it is fitting to pause and turn our attention to the supporting organs that have made digestion possible. In the next part, we will explore the liver, the master chemist of the body, whose contributions extend far beyond the production of bile. 9. The liver, the master chemist. As we follow the path of digestion, moving from the stomach to the small intestine, it becomes clear that no single organ works in isolation. Each stage depends on the careful contributions of others, and among these, one organ stands above the rest in complexity and importance. The liver, often called the master chemist of the body. The liver is both a digestive ally and a central hub for countless metabolic processes. To reflect upon the liver is to glimpse the quiet laboratory that sustains life, day and night, endlessly at work. Even as we rest, the liver is the largest internal organ, weighing about 1.5 kilograms in the average adult. It sits beneath the diaphragm on the right side of the abdomen, partially shielded by the rib cage. Its surface is smooth, reddish-brown, and richly supplied with blood vessels. Unlike the stomach or intestines, the liver is not a hollow chamber but a solid organ, composed of millions of tiny functional units called lobules. Each lobule is a hexagonal arrangement of cells known as hepatocytes, through which blood flows and is transformed. Within these small, repeating structures, the liver carries out its thousands of tasks. In digestion, the liver's most direct contribution is the production of bile. Bile is a greenish-yellow fluid composed of bile salts, water, cholesterol, and waste products like bilirubin, a pigment formed from the breakdown of red blood cells. Though bile is not itself an enzyme, its role is essential for fat digestion. Fats, being insoluble in water, tend to clump together into large droplets when mixed with chyme. Bile salts act like natural detergents, surrounding fat molecules and breaking them into smaller droplets, a process called emulsification. By doing this, bile increases the surface area of fat, making it accessible to pancreatic lipase, the enzyme that breaks fats into fatty acids and glycerol. Without bile, the digestion and absorption of fats would be slow and incomplete. Bile is produced continuously by the liver and stored in the gallbladder, a small pouch located just beneath it. When fatty chyme enters the duodenum, hormones signal the gallbladder to contract, releasing bile through the bile duct into the intestine. After the fats are digested and absorbed, most of the bile salts are reabsorbed in the ileum and carried back to the liver to be used again, a cycle known as enterohepatic circulation. In this way, the liver not only produces bile but also manages its reuse, conserving resources in a quiet cycle of renewal. Yet the liver's role extends far beyond bile. It is a master regulator of nutrients, shaping them into forms the body can use. When glucose is absorbed into the bloodstream from the small intestine, it travels directly to the liver through the portal vein. If the body needs energy immediately, the liver releases glucose back into the blood to be carried to muscles and the brain. If there is more glucose than is required at that moment, the liver stores it as glycogen, a dense form of carbohydrate that can be broken down later when energy is needed. In times of fasting, the liver even creates new glucose from amino acids and other sources, ensuring that the body never runs short of this vital fuel. Proteins, too, are carefully managed by the liver. After amino acids are absorbed, the liver distributes them according to need. Some are used to build new proteins, while others are altered into different compounds. The liver also removes the nitrogen from excess amino acids, converting it into urea, which is sent to the kidneys and excreted in urine. This process prevents the toxic buildup of nitrogen in the body and highlights the liver's role as both provider and protector. Fats are also refined here. After being absorbed and carried into the bloodstream as chylomicrons, fats eventually reach the liver, where they are broken down, repackaged, or stored. The liver creates cholesterol, an essential molecule for cell membranes and hormones, and balances its levels in the blood. It also produces lipoproteins, which act as carriers to transport fats and cholesterol to other tissues. In this way, the liver ensures that fats are available as both fuel and building material, without ever overwhelming the body. Beyond its work with nutrients, the liver performs one of its most vital roles: detoxification. Every substance absorbed from the intestines, whether nutrient or toxin, passes through the liver first. Harmful compounds from food, medications, or the environment are modified here, made less toxic. Alcohol, for example, is broken down in the liver, as are many drugs. The liver also filters the blood of byproducts from normal metabolism, preventing their accumulation. In this sense, the liver is both a laboratory and a shield, constantly protecting the body from harm. The liver is also a storehouse, holding reserves of vitamins and minerals for when they are needed. Vitamins A, D, E, K, and B12 are kept here, along with iron and copper. These reserves allow the body to maintain stability even when dietary intake fluctuates. The liver is not only a processor but also a guardian of abundance, ensuring that nutrients are available in times of both plenty and scarcity. Remarkably, the liver is capable of regeneration. Unlike most organs, it can replace lost tissue, growing back to its full size, even after significant injury or surgical removal. This regenerative ability underscores its resilience and central role in survival. Few other organs possess such a gift, and it speaks to the liver's importance in maintaining life. To pause and reflect on the liver is to see it as a master conductor, quietly orchestrating the flow of digestion and metabolism. It produces bile to aid fat digestion, stores and releases glucose to balance energy, manages proteins and fats with precision, detoxifies harmful substances. It is both a chemist and a protector, both a warehouse and a factory. Even as we sleep, the liver continues its tireless work, ensuring that every cell receives what it needs and that balance is preserved. As chyme continues its journey through the intestines, the liver's influence remains constant, shaping every nutrient that enters the blood. But it does not act alone. Alongside it, the gallbladder serves as a reservoir of bile, releasing its stores when called upon. In the next part of our lecture, we will turn to this smaller companion, the gallbladder, and explore how its quiet role contributes to the harmony of digestion. 10. The gallbladder and its reservoir of bile. Nestled just beneath the liver, in a small hollow on its underside, lies a modest organ that plays a surprisingly vital role in digestion, the gallbladder. Unlike the liver, which is large and complex, the gallbladder is small, pear-shaped, and unassuming, measuring only about 7 to 10 centimeters in length. Yet despite its size, it acts as an important reservoir, storing and releasing bile at just the right moments to assist in the digestion of fats. In many ways, the gallbladder is a quiet keeper of balance, holding what the body needs in reserve and delivering it precisely when required. Bile, produced continuously by the liver, is a fluid essential for fat digestion. While the liver is the true manufacturer, the gallbladder's role is storage and concentration. As bile flows from the liver, it can travel directly into the small intestine, or, when digestion is not actively occurring, it is diverted into the gallbladder. Here, it is stored until the next meal. During its time in the gallbladder, bile becomes more concentrated. Water is reabsorbed from it, leaving behind a fluid rich in bile salts, bile pigments, cholesterol, and other compounds. This concentrated form of bile is more effective, ready to act when food arrives in the intestine. The release of bile from the gallbladder is not constant but carefully timed. When a meal containing fat enters the duodenum, the lining of the intestine releases a hormone called cholecystokinin, often shortened to CCK. This hormone acts as a signal, prompting the gallbladder to contract. At the same time, it relaxes a small muscular valve called the sphincter of Oddi, located at the point where the bile duct meets the duodenum. With these movements, bile flows smoothly from the gallbladder, through the bile ducts, and into the small intestine, where it joins the chyme. Once released, bile performs its indispensable task, Fat molecules, being hydrophobic, resist mixing with the watery environment of the intestine. They form large droplets, which are difficult for enzymes to act upon. Bile salts solve this problem. Each bile salt molecule has two sides, one that dissolves in water and one that binds to fat. By surrounding fat droplets, bile salts break them apart into much smaller particles in a process called emulsification. This action creates a vastly larger surface area for pancreatic lipase, the enzyme responsible for digesting fats, to do its work. In essence, bile makes fat digestion possible. Without it, much of the fat in food would pass through the intestines undigested and unabsorbed. The gallbladder's function may appear simple, but it demonstrates a theme repeated throughout the digestive system: cooperation. The liver produces bile, the pancreas provides lipase, and the gallbladder ensures that bile is stored, concentrated, and delivered in perfect synchrony with the arrival of fats. If one part of this partnership falters, digestion suffers. For example, if the gallbladder fails to contract properly, bile may not be released in sufficient amounts, making fat digestion incomplete. If bile salts are not reabsorbed efficiently in the ileum and return to the liver, the supply becomes depleted over time. Each element depends on the others, and together they form a seamless system. Though the gallbladder is small, its health is important. Over time, concentrated bile can form crystals that grow into gallstones, which may block the flow of bile and cause discomfort. Despite this, many people live without a gallbladder, as it can be surgically removed if necessary. In such cases, bile flows directly from the liver into the intestine, though fat digestion becomes less efficient without the gallbladder's storage and timed release. The liver continues to produce bile, and the digestive system adapts. This adaptability speaks to the resilience of the human body, capable of maintaining balance even when one part is absent. It is worth pausing to consider the gallbladder's quiet role. It does not create, absorb, or transform nutrients. Yet it makes digestion far more effective by ensuring that bile is available exactly when it is needed most. It is not a producer, but a steward holding, concentrating, and delivering with precision. The gallbladder exemplifies the principle that even the smallest of organs can hold great importance in the harmony of the whole. As chyme continues through the small intestine, enriched with bile and enzymes, it encounters the full force of digestion, with fats broken down into fatty acids and glycerol, ready for absorption into the lymph. This intricate balance, however, is not maintained by the gallbladder alone. Its neighbor, the pancreas, also plays a dual and vital role, both as a digestive gland and as a regulator of blood sugar. In the next part of our journey, we will turn to the pancreas, exploring its contributions, not only to digestion, but also to the body's greater system of energy balance. 11. The pancreas, dual role in health. As we continue our journey through the organs that support digestion, we arrive at one of the most remarkable of them all, the pancreas. Lying just behind the stomach, nestled in the curve of the duodenum. The pancreas is a soft, elongated organ, about 15 centimeters in length, pale in color, and subtle in appearance. It may not draw attention to itself in the way the stomach or liver does, yet it is one of the most versatile organs in the human body. The pancreas serves two distinct purposes. It is both an exocrine gland, releasing powerful digestive enzymes into the small intestine, and an endocrine gland, regulating blood sugar by secreting hormones into the bloodstream. These two roles, though different, are woven together in the pancreas, making it a quiet guardian of both digestion and balance. The exocrine function of the pancreas is its most direct contribution to the digestive process. Within the pancreas are clusters of acinar cells, arranged like small grape-like structures. These cells secrete digestive enzymes into tiny ducts, which merge to form the main pancreatic duct. This duct joins with the bile duct from the liver and gallbladder, and together they empty into the duodenum at a small opening called the ampulla of Vater. With each meal, as chyme enters the duodenum, the pancreas releases its secretions in precise harmony with digestion. The enzymes secreted by the pancreas are among the most important in the entire digestive system. Pancreatic amylase continues the work of breaking down complex carbohydrates into simple sugars, a process that began with salivary amylase in the mouth. Pancreatic lipase acts upon fats, cleaving triglycerides into fatty acids and monoglycerides that can be absorbed by the intestine. Proteases, such as trypsin and chymotrypsin, cut proteins into smaller peptides, while carboxypeptidase trims them further into individual amino acids. Nucleases break down nucleic acids, the DNA and RNA present in food, into nucleotides, the building blocks that can be reused by the body. Each enzyme is highly specific, and together they ensure that every macronutrient is broken down into its simplest, most usable form. Alongside enzymes, the pancreas also secretes bicarbonate, a mild alkaline solution that neutralizes the acidity of chyme arriving from the stomach. Without this neutralization, the highly acidic environment of gastric juice would damage the delicate lining of the intestine and inactivate the pancreatic enzymes. By raising the pH to a safe level, bicarbonate creates the conditions in which digestion can continue smoothly. The release of pancreatic secretions is tightly regulated by signals from the small intestine. As acidic chyme enters the duodenum, cells in its lining release the hormone secretin, which stimulates the pancreas to release bicarbonate. When fats and proteins are detected, another hormone, cholecystokinin, CCK, signals the pancreas to release enzymes. In this way, the pancreas responds directly to the contents of the meal, ensuring that the right tools are delivered at the right time. While its exocrine role is vital for digestion, the pancreas also carries out an equally important endocrine function, one that reaches far beyond the digestive system. Scattered among the enzyme-secreting cells are small clusters known as the islets of Langerhans. These islets contain several types of hormone-producing cells, the most important being beta cells and alpha cells. Beta cells secrete insulin, a hormone that lowers blood sugar by allowing glucose to enter cells for use or storage. Alpha cells secrete glucagon, a hormone that raises blood sugar by signaling the liver to release stored glucose. Together, insulin and glucagon keep blood sugar levels within a narrow, healthy range, providing steady fuel to the brain and body. This endocrine role of the pancreas is essential for life. After a meal, as glucose floods into the bloodstream from the intestine, insulin ensures that it is quickly absorbed and stored, preventing dangerous spikes in blood sugar. Between meals, or during fasting, glucagon ensures that glucose is released from the liver, preventing levels from dropping too low. The harmony between insulin and glucagon maintains balance, supporting energy needs throughout the day and night. The dual role of the pancreas as both a digestive gland and a regulator of metabolism makes it unique. Few organs carry such diverse responsibilities, and fewer still do so with such quiet efficiency. Yet its importance is clear when one considers what happens if the pancreas falters. Without its enzymes, digestion becomes incomplete, and nutrients pass through the intestine unabsorbed. Without its hormones, blood sugar swings unpredictably, leading to imbalance. In its steady work, the pancreas exemplifies the theme of cooperation and balance that runs throughout the digestive system. When we reflect upon the pancreas, it helps to imagine it as a bridge. On one side, it bridges the stomach and intestines, providing enzymes that make digestion possible. On the other side, it bridges digestion and the wider metabolism of the body, ensuring that the energy released from food is stored and used wisely. It is both local and global in its influence, affecting not just what happens in the gut, but also what happens in every cell of the body. As chyme continues its journey through the small intestine, enriched by pancreatic enzymes and neutralized by bicarbonate, it is broken down into its final components, ready to be absorbed by the villi of the jejunum and ileum. By the time the chyme leaves the small intestine, most nutrients have been claimed. What remains passes onward into the large intestine, where a new kind of transformation takes place, one shaped not only by the body's own tissues, but also by its vast community of microbes. In the next part of our exploration, we will step into the large intestine, the final great passage of digestion, and discover its role in reclaiming water, forming waste, and supporting life through the quiet work of the microbiome. 12. By the time chyme reaches the end of the small intestine and passes through the ileocecal valve, most of its nutrients have already been absorbed. What remains is a mixture of water, indigestible fibers, small amounts of undigested food, and a vast community of microorganisms. This mixture now enters the large intestine, also known as the colon, where digestion gives way to refinement. The large intestine is not a place of nutrient absorption in the same sense as the jejunum or ileum, but rather a place of conservation and transformation. It reclaims water and electrolytes, houses beneficial bacteria, and prepares waste for elimination. In its quiet way, it represents the final passage of digestion. The large intestine is wider than the small intestine, though shorter in length, measuring about 1.5 meters. It begins in the lower right side of the abdomen. Attached to the cecum is the appendix, a narrow tube of tissue that was once thought to be useless, but is now believed to play a role in supporting the immune system and maintaining healthy gut bacteria. From the cecum, the colon travels upward on the right side of the abdomen as the ascending colon, then across the upper abdomen as the transverse colon, down the left side as the descending colon, and finally curves into the sigmoid colon, which leads to the rectum and anus. This long, looping path provides time and space for the remaining contents to be processed. The primary task of the large intestine is the absorption of water. As chyme enters, it is still quite fluid. Through the action of the colon's lining, water is drawn back into the body, along with electrolytes such as sodium and potassium. This process conserves precious fluids, preventing dehydration and maintaining the balance of salts in the blood. As water is absorbed, the contents of the colon gradually become more solid, forming feces. This transformation is slow and deliberate, ensuring that the body reclaims as much water as it needs. Another defining feature of the large intestine is its relationship with microbes. Trillions of bacteria inhabit the colon, forming what is known as the gut microbiome. These microbes are not intruders but long-standing partners, living in balance with the body and contributing to its health. They assist in breaking down certain fibers that human enzymes cannot digest, producing short-chain fatty acids that can be absorbed and used for energy. They synthesize certain vitamins, such as vitamin K and some B vitamins, adding to the body's supply. They also play a role in protecting against harmful bacteria, occupying space and producing compounds that discourage invaders. The presence of this microbiome gives the large intestine a unique character. It is not simply a chamber of absorption and storage, but a living ecosystem where human cells and microbial cells coexist and cooperate. This partnership influences not only digestion but also immunity, mood, and overall health. In recent years, science has uncovered just how deeply the microbiome is tied to well-being, reminding us that the large intestine is far more than a passageway for waste. Movement through the large intestine is guided by a series of muscular contractions. Unlike the rapid peristalsis of the small intestine, the colon uses slower, segmented contractions called haustral movements. These contractions mix the contents and press them against the intestinal wall, aiding in water absorption. From time to time, stronger waves of movement, known as mass movements, push the contents forward, moving them toward the rectum. These motions are less frequent but powerful, occurring a few times each day, often in response to meals. The large intestine also plays a role in storing waste until elimination. As feces form, the rectum expands as it fills, sending signals to the brain that it is time to release. This process is controlled by both voluntary and involuntary muscles, allowing for regulation of when elimination occurs. In this way, the digestive system not only processes food, but also maintains dignity and control, holding waste until the moment is appropriate. Though its work may seem less dramatic than that of the stomach or small intestine, the large intestine is essential. Without its careful absorption of water, the body would lose fluids rapidly, leading to dehydration. Without its microbiome, certain vitamins would be scarce, and harmful bacteria might gain a foothold. Without its storage function, waste would pass uncontrollably. The large intestine, then, is a quiet steward of balance, ensuring that the final steps of digestion are orderly and efficient. To reflect upon the large intestine is to see completion. Food has already been chewed, broken down, mixed with acids and enzymes, emulsified with bile, and absorbed into the bloodstream. What remains is no longer food, but the remnants of what cannot be used. The colon ensures that water is reclaimed, that microbes contribute their gifts, and that waste is shaped and stored until it can be released. In this final passage, digestion comes to its close, and the cycle of nourishment is complete. As we look ahead, the journey of digestion still holds its last chapter, the act of elimination, where the body quietly returns what it no longer needs to the outside world. Yet before we reach that point, it is fitting to pause and reflect on how the entire system works together in harmony. In the next part of our lecture, we will consider the role of the microbiome more deeply, exploring how this invisible community within us shapes not only digestion, but also our greater health. 13. The rectum and elimination. As the long journey of digestion reaches its quiet conclusion, what remains from a meal is guided into the final stretch of the gastrointestinal tract, the rectum and the anal canal. By now, the body has gathered nearly everything it can use: water, sugars, amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals, and what is left is shaped, conserved, and gently prepared for release. This stage may seem simple compared with the churning work of the stomach or the intricate absorption of the small intestine, yet it is carefully regulated, preserving both internal balance and the dignity of control. The rectum is a short, muscular reservoir, roughly 12 centimeters in length, continuing from the sigmoid colon and leading to the anal canal. Its walls are compliant and sensitive, designed to hold formed stool temporarily without unnecessary pressure. At its lower end sits the anal canal, a passage only a few centimeters long but richly specialized, lined with folds and cushions of vascular tissue that help seal the opening and maintain continence. Two sphincters, one internal, one external, form a paired gateway. The internal anal sphincter is smooth muscle and acts involuntarily, providing steady baseline tone. The external anal sphincter is skeletal muscle, under voluntary control, allowing us to choose the time and setting for elimination. There is also a subtle sling of muscle, the puborectalis, that loops around the junction of rectum and anal canal, creating a gentle angle that helps keep stool in place. When we remain upright and the pelvic floor is engaged, this angle is maintained. When we relax the pelvic floor during elimination, the angle straightens, allowing passage. Together, the two sphincters, the pelvic floor, and the rectal wall form a coordinated system, responsive enough to sense small changes, strong enough to hold, and flexible enough to release when the time is right. The orchestration begins with sensation. As formed stool enters the rectum, stretch receptors in the rectal wall awaken and send signals through the nervous system, creating a conscious urge to defecate. At the same time, a local reflex, often called the rectoanal inhibitory reflex, momentarily relaxes the internal sphincter, allowing a brief sampling at the top of the anal canal. This gentle test helps the body distinguish gas from liquid or solid, informing our decision about whether to pass gas or wait for a private moment. If the situation is not appropriate, the external sphincter contracts, the pelvic floor lifts, and the rectum adapts by relaxing slightly to accommodate its contents, allowing the urge to subside until a better time. The rhythm that delivers material to the rectum is influenced by broader patterns in the colon. After meals, a wave of activity known as the gastrocolic response often increases colonic movement, nudging contents forward. These mass movements are not constant. They occur a few times daily, with the rectum remaining mostly empty between them. When one arrives, the rectum fills, sensation rises, and the familiar urge returns. Our daily routine, meal times, and even posture can shape this rhythm, which is why many people notice a natural preference for a morning bowel movement after breakfast. When elimination is appropriate, the body shifts into a coordinated release. The external sphincter and the pelvic floor relax. The puborectalis sling eases its bend, and the rectoanal angle straightens. Gentle increases in abdominal pressure, supported by the diaphragm, and the abdominal wall help move stool along without force. A slow exhalation, relaxed shoulders, and unhurried time allow the process to unfold with minimal strain. In essence, the body changes from a posture of holding to a posture of letting go, and the passage opens in calm sequence. The composition of stool reflects the quiet efficiency of the preceding journey. Though it appears solid, feces are still composed significantly of water, blended with indigestible plant fibers, a modest number of sloughed intestinal cells, and abundant microbial biomass. The gut microbes of the colon continue to shape this final mixture. They ferment certain fibers our own enzymes cannot digest, creating short-chain fatty acids that nourish the colon's lining and contribute to local health. They also influence the odor and character of stool through their metabolic byproducts. Its typical brown color arises from the breakdown of bile pigments into compounds like stercobilin, a small reminder that the liver's contribution echoes even at the end. The comfort of elimination depends on many gentle variables that the body balances with grace. Adequate hydration allows the colon to reclaim water without leaving stool overly dry. Dietary fiber, particularly a calm blend of soluble and insoluble types, gives stool appropriate bulk and softness, supporting steady movement and easy passage. Regular, unhurried time and attentive posture reduce the need for strain, protecting delicate tissues near the anal canal. Even the arrangement of the hips and knees can help. A posture that brings the knees a little higher than the hips can encourage the pelvic floor to relax and the angle to straighten, making the process smoother. The tissues at the outlet are sensitive and deserve care. Excessive straining can irritate vascular cushions that normally help seal the canal, leading to discomfort over time. The body's preference is for a quiet rhythm, responding to urges when they arise, breathing steadily, and allowing the coordinated reflexes to proceed without hurry. Small, patient habits, enjoying a warm beverage in the morning, allowing a few unhurried minutes after meals, walking gently each day support this natural cadence. Across the lifespan, the pattern adapts. In newborns, elimination is mostly reflexive, while the nervous system matures and control gradually becomes voluntary. In pregnancy, the growing uterus shifts abdominal pressures and hormones, soften connective tissues, asking for patience and support. Later in life, pelvic floor muscles may benefit from gentle strengthening, while routines and hydration become steadier anchors for comfort. Throughout these changes, the same quiet principles apply. Respect the urge, allow time, breathe, and let the well-practiced reflexes guide the way. When elimination occurs, the body completes a full cycle of exchange. What came from the outside world has been transformed and shared inward, turned into warmth, movement, and repair, and what cannot be used is released with simplicity. The act is ordinary and deeply necessary, clearing the way for the next meal, the next flow of energy, the next day's quiet metabolism. It is housekeeping at the most elemental level, a closure that makes room for new beginnings. To pause here is to appreciate the elegance of endings. The rectum and anal canal do not alter nutrients or direct hormones, yet they guard timing, privacy, and ease. They embody the balance between automatic reflex and conscious choice, between containment and release. In their steady function, the entire digestive story finds its final punctuation: gentle, unremarkable, and essential. With this closing chapter complete, another story is ready to unfold. One that has been present all along, too small to see, but vast in its influence. The gut microbiome, trillions strong, has worked beside us from the cecum forward, shaping digestion, soothing the lining, and conversing with the immune system in subtle chemical tones. In the next part of our lecture, we will turn toward this life within life and explore how these invisible citizens help keep the entire system in quiet harmony. 14. The gut microbiome. Life within us. As the digestive system completes its visible work, there remains an entire dimension of activity, hidden from sight yet essential to health. This is the world of the gut microbiome, the vast community of microorganisms that dwell primarily in the large intestine. Though too small to be seen without a microscope, they are unimaginably numerous. Trillions of bacteria, along with viruses, fungi, and archaea, living in a state of balance within the human body. Their combined genetic material, far exceeding that of human cells, adds layers of ability and resilience to digestion. To contemplate the microbiome is to recognize that the human body is not a solitary organism but a partnership, a quiet ecosystem where many forms of life coexist and cooperate. From the earliest days of life, the microbiome begins to take shape. At birth, as a newborn passes through the birth canal and enters the outside world, microbes colonize the skin, mouth, and gut. Breast milk further nourishes this microbial population, containing not only nutrients for the infant but also special sugars that serve as food for beneficial bacteria. As a child grows and explores, their microbiome continues to diversify, shaped by diet, environment, and interactions. By adulthood, the microbiome stabilizes into a complex and resilient community, distinct to each individual yet sharing certain common features. Within the digestive tract, microbes perform tasks that the human body alone cannot accomplish. One of their most vital contributions is the breakdown of dietary fibers that escape digestion in the small intestine. Human enzymes cannot cut the bonds in many plant fibers, but bacteria possess a wide range of enzymes that can. Through fermentation, they convert these fibers into short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These compounds nourish the cells lining the colon, support healthy metabolism, and even influence inflammation and immunity. In this way, foods rich in fiber do not simply pass through the body. They are transformed by the microbiome into substances that benefit health on multiple levels. The microbiome also contributes to vitamin production. Certain gut bacteria synthesize vitamins that humans cannot make on their own, including vitamin K and some B vitamins. These vitamins, once absorbed, join the body's supply, highlighting how closely human nutrition depends on microbial activity. It is a quiet partnership. We provide a home and steady food supply, and in return, the microbes provide enzymes, compounds, and vitamins we cannot otherwise obtain. Beyond digestion, the microbiome plays a significant role in training and regulating the immune system. From early childhood, the presence of microbes in the gut teaches the immune system how to distinguish friend from foe. Instead of reacting aggressively to every microbe encountered, the immune system learns tolerance, reserving its defenses for genuine threats. This balance helps prevent excessive inflammation, which could harm the body's own tissues. In essence, the microbiome guides the immune system toward wisdom, encouraging a measured response rather than indiscriminate attack. The influence of the microbiome extends even further, reaching into areas that might seem unrelated to digestion. Research has revealed intricate communication between the gut and the brain, a connection often referred to as the gut-brain axis. Through signaling molecules, immune mediators, and even the vagus nerve, gut microbes can influence mood, stress responses, and cognition. While much remains to be understood, evidence suggests that a balanced microbiome contributes not only to physical health, but also to emotional well-being. The composition of the microbiome is not fixed but dynamic, responding to diet, lifestyle, and environment. A diet rich in diverse plant fibers tends to support microbial diversity, which is associated with resilience and stability. Processed foods low in fiber, on the other hand, may reduce diversity over time. Antibiotics, though sometimes necessary to treat infection, can disrupt the microbiome, diminishing beneficial populations alongside harmful ones. Recovery often depends on time, diet, and recolonization, reminding us that this inner ecosystem requires care and attention. Yet the microbiome is not fragile but adaptable. Around the world, human populations have microbiomes that reflect local diets, environments, and traditions. Those who consume diets rich in grains and legumes foster different microbial communities than those who consume diets abundant in animal products or tropical fruits. Despite these differences, the underlying theme remains constant. The microbiome evolves with its host, adjusting to available foods and conditions, always working in partnership with the body it inhabits. It is striking to realize that microbes outnumber human cells by at least an order of magnitude. They are not foreign invaders but ancient companions, present in humans since long before recorded history. Their genes expand the functional capacity of the human body, providing enzymes, pathways, and chemical abilities that human DNA alone does not encode. In a sense, the microbiome acts as an extension of ourselves, a collective organ that is both part of us and beyond us. To reflect on the microbiome is to shift perspective. Digestion is not merely a human process but a shared endeavor, carried out by countless unseen helpers. The stomach churns, the pancreas releases enzymes, the liver provides bile, and then, in the large intestine, bacteria take over, breaking down what remains and contributing their own gifts. This cooperation illustrates a theme found throughout nature. Life thrives not in isolation, but in community. The microbiome also reminds us of cycles larger than ourselves. The bacteria within us belong to lineages as old as the earth. Shaped by millennia of evolution, they have adapted to live in symbiosis, neither dominating nor disappearing, but persisting in balance. Just as forests depend on the interplay of trees, soil, fungi, and animals, so too does the human body depend on the interplay of its own cells and its microbial partners. As we conclude this part of the lecture, it is worth pausing to imagine this hidden world within. Trillions of cells, each smaller than a pinpoint, working ceaselessly in silence. They ferment, they synthesize, they signal, they protect. Together, they form a quiet chorus, one that sustains digestion, shapes immunity, and influences the mind. To sleep with this thought is to rest in the knowledge that within us lies an ecosystem, vast and ancient, patiently keeping us whole. In the next part of our journey, we will step back from individual organs and microbes to view the digestive system as a whole. We will reflect on its rhythms, its cooperation, and its place within the greater cycle of nourishment that connects us to the earth and its living systems. 15. Integration. The digestive symphony. When we pause to reflect on the digestive system in its entirety, it is helpful to imagine it not as a series of isolated organs, but as a living symphony. Each section has its part to play, each organ adding its distinct contribution, yet all moving together toward a common purpose. From the first moment food enters the mouth to the final moment when waste leaves the rectum, digestion unfolds as a carefully orchestrated performance, where timing, cooperation, and balance shape the flow. At the beginning, the mouth sets the tone. Teeth and tongue break food into smaller pieces, while saliva softens, moistens, and begins the work of chemical digestion. This is the prelude, a gentle overture in which the senses of taste and smell awaken anticipation. Without this introduction, the later movements of digestion would be more difficult, for the mechanical and chemical preparation that begins here allows every subsequent step to proceed more smoothly. From the mouth, the esophagus carries the bolus downward, a passage of transition rather than transformation. Its peristaltic waves are steady and strong, ensuring that food arrives safely in the stomach regardless of posture or gravity. It is a movement of quiet transportation, linking the opening notes of digestion with the deeper tones that follow. The stomach, with its muscular walls and acidic secretions, represents a dramatic shift in the composition. Here, food is churned and dissolved, proteins unfolded, and microbes neutralized. Gastric juices transform the bolus into chyme, a rich mixture prepared for more delicate processes ahead. The stomach is a chamber of preparation, a kind of resonant drumbeat, powerful yet precise, setting the rhythm for the small intestine to follow. The small intestine then takes up the melody, long and intricate, filled with countless variations. With help from bile released by the liver and gallbladder, and enzymes secreted by the pancreas, macronutrients are broken down into their simplest forms. Carbohydrates become sugars, proteins become amino acids, fats become fatty acids and glycerol. Along the villi and microvilli, these molecules are absorbed into the bloodstream and lymph, carried away to nourish every cell. This is the main movement of the symphony, the longest and most detailed, where the body's needs are met with quiet abundance. Meanwhile, the liver contributes its own harmonies, regulating nutrients, detoxifying harmful compounds, and storing vitamins for the future. The gallbladder adds its rhythm of release, concentrating and delivering bile in step with meals. The pancreas, versatile and precise, contributes both enzymes for digestion and hormones for blood sugar balance, weaving together the digestive and metabolic worlds. These organs, though distinct, act as a chamber ensemble within the symphony, supporting the small intestine with perfect timing. The large intestine enters as a quieter, more reflective passage. Here the tempo slows. Water and electrolytes are reclaimed, and microbes add their subtle notes, fermenting fibers into nourishing compounds. The colon shapes and stores, completing the transformation of food into both energy and waste. In this movement, the human and microbial voices join, reminding us that digestion is never a solo performance, but a chorus of many lives intertwined. Finally, the rectum and anus provide the closing cadence. Waste, carefully formed and timed, is released in a way that preserves balance and dignity. It is the gentle resolution of the symphony, the final measure that allows the body to end one cycle and prepare for another. Without this closure, the music would remain unfinished. With it, the digestive journey finds its calm conclusion. What makes this symphony remarkable is not only the skill of each part, but the seamless coordination that binds them together. Hormones and nerves provide signals that maintain timing. When chyme enters the duodenum, secretin and cholecystokinin direct the pancreas and gallbladder. When glucose rises in the blood, insulin ensures its use and storage. Reflexes guide swallowing, regulate sphincters, and trigger elimination. Each signal is like a conductor's cue, ensuring that organs play neither too early nor too late, but in harmony. This integration reaches beyond the digestive system itself. The circulatory system carries absorbed nutrients to tissues. The endocrine system links digestion to metabolism, influencing energy and storage. The nervous system weaves through every organ, balancing contraction and relaxation, secretion and absorption. Even the immune system participates, shaped by the microbiome and guarding the delicate lining of the gut. Together, These systems remind us that digestion is not an isolated performance, but a part of the body's greater symphony of life. To rest with this thought is to sense the elegance of cooperation. Each meal, no matter how simple, sets into motion a vast collaboration of tissues, enzymes, microbes, and signals. Each bite is transformed not only into energy, but into warmth, thought, movement, and growth. Each ending is paired with a new beginning, the release of waste followed by the intake of fresh food. It is a cycle as old as humanity, unfolding every day, sustaining every moment of life. As we drift deeper into this lecture, the digestive symphony becomes more than biology. It becomes a meditation on balance. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is abrupt. There is rhythm. There is harmony. And there is continuity. The body, like the music of nature, thrives not in isolation, but in the blending of parts, the quiet cooperation that sustains the whole. In the next part of our journey, we will widen our view even further, looking at how the digestive system connects to the body's energy use and storage. We will explore metabolism, the quiet chemistry that transforms nutrients into strength and life. 16. Metabolism, from nutrients to energy. Having followed food from the first bite to its final passage, we now turn to what happens after nutrients have been absorbed and carried into the body's inner streams. This stage is metabolism, the quiet chemistry by which molecules gathered from food are transformed into energy, stored for later use, or woven into the tissues that make up the human form. If digestion is the story of breaking down, metabolism is the story of building up and transforming, converting the potential within food into the warmth of life, the movement of muscles, and the gentle hum of thought. Metabolism can be thought of as two complementary currents flowing within every cell: catabolism and anabolism. Catabolism is the breaking down of molecules, releasing energy that can be captured and used. Anabolism is the building up of molecules, creating proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, and other structures needed for growth and repair. Together, these two currents balance one another, one releasing energy, the other consuming it, a cycle as continuous as breathing. At the center of metabolism lies adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This small molecule is often called the energy currency of the cell, for it stores energy in the bonds between its phosphate groups. When a bond is broken, energy is released, ready to power muscle contraction, nerve transmission, or chemical synthesis. Every second of life depends on the steady production and use of ATP, and nearly every pathway of metabolism is designed either to generate it or to spend it wisely. Carbohydrates, once digested into glucose, provide one of the body's most immediate sources of energy. Glucose enters cells with the help of insulin and begins its journey through glycolysis, a pathway that breaks it into smaller fragments while capturing some energy. These fragments enter the mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses of the cell, where they are fed into the citric acid cycle, and then the electron transport chain. Here, oxygen is used, and vast amounts of ATP are produced in a process known as cellular respiration. With every breath of oxygen, glucose is transformed into carbon dioxide, water, and energy, a quiet combustion that fuels life without flame. Fats, digested into fatty acids and glycerol, provide a more concentrated store of energy. When needed, fatty acids are broken down through a pathway called beta oxidation, also feeding into the citric acid cycle and electron transport chain. Because of their dense structure, fats yield more energy per gram than carbohydrates, making them the body's favored form of long-term storage. When food is plentiful, extra energy is stored in fat cells, tucked away for times when nourishment is scarce. This ability to store and release energy has allowed humans and other animals to survive cycles of feast and famine throughout history. Proteins, while not the body's first choice for energy, can also contribute when necessary. Once broken down into amino acids, they may be used to build new proteins for muscles, enzymes, and tissues. If energy is lacking, amino acids can be converted into glucose or fed into energy pathways. Yet the body prefers to preserve proteins for building and repairing, using them for fuel only when other sources are low. This reflects a hierarchy of needs, with proteins reserved for structure and function, and carbohydrates and fats serving primarily as energy. Metabolism is not merely about generating energy, but also about maintaining balance. After a meal, when glucose floods the blood, insulin ensures that cells absorb and store it. Between meals, when glucose levels fall, the hormone glucagon signals the liver to release stored sugar. During prolonged fasting, the body turns more heavily to fat stores, and in extreme cases, the liver produces ketone bodies from fatty acids to supply energy to the brain. These transitions reveal the body's adaptability, its ability to shift smoothly between energy sources while keeping vital organs supplied. The liver serves as the great regulator of metabolism, monitoring blood nutrients and adjusting accordingly. It stores glucose as glycogen and releases it when needed, transforms amino acids into other compounds, and even converts excess carbohydrates and proteins into fat. It is here that balance is orchestrated, ensuring that no matter the variability of meals, the body remains steady and supplied. Metabolism also generates heat, keeping the body warm. As ATP is produced and used, some energy escapes as heat, raising body temperature to levels that support enzyme function and life. This warmth is not incidental but essential, for without it, the chemistry of metabolism would slow, and the body would falter. In this way, energy from food becomes not only motion and thought, but also the steady temperature that sustains existence. The rhythm of metabolism is shaped by daily cycles and long-term needs. During rest, metabolism slows, conserving energy while maintaining essential functions. During activity, it rises, muscles drawing heavily upon stored glycogen and fat. Over years, metabolism changes with age, adjusting to shifts in muscle mass, hormones, and lifestyle. Yet through all these variations, the core principles remain. Energy is taken in, transformed, stored, and used, a cycle of balance that supports every heartbeat and every breath. To reflect on metabolism is to see the invisible thread that links the outer world to the inner. Sunlight, captured by plants and stored as carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, is passed into the body through food. Within cells, that sunlight is released again, not as rays but as warmth, motion, and thought. In this way, metabolism is not only chemistry but continuity, a chain that links the energy of stars to the energy of human life. As we move forward in our lecture, we will turn to the ways metabolism is influenced by nutrition, exploring how the quality and balance of foods shape not only digestion, but energy, health, and resilience. In this reflection, the body becomes not just a consumer of food, but a partner in the great cycles of nature, sustained by rhythms far older than itself. 17. Nutrition and balance. Having explored the mechanics of metabolism, we now turn to the gentle art of nourishment itself. Nutrition is not only about the breaking down of food or the release of energy, but about balance, about the way that different types of food harmonize with the body's needs, supporting not just survival but health, growth, and long-term well-being. In every meal, whether simple or elaborate, the human body receives an orchestra of molecules, each with a role to play, each contributing to the quiet continuity of life. The three primary macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, form the foundation of nutrition. Each provides energy, but in distinct ways, and each offers structural elements the body cannot do without. Carbohydrates, composed of sugars and starches, are the most immediate source of fuel, particularly for the brain and muscles. When eaten in whole forms, such as grains, fruits, and vegetables, they carry not only glucose but also fibers and micronutrients that steady blood sugar and support digestion. In their refined form, however, stripped of fiber, they can release glucose quickly, causing sharp rises and falls in energy. The balance lies in choosing sources that provide both energy and steadiness, feeding the microbiome as well as the cells. Proteins, built from amino acids, are the building blocks of the body's tissues. Muscles, enzymes, hormones, and even the hemoglobin that carries oxygen in the blood are composed of proteins. Because the body cannot store amino acids the way it stores glucose or fat, it requires a steady intake through food. Sources such as legumes, nuts, seeds, dairy, fish, and lean meats provide the diversity of amino acids needed to repair tissues, grow, and maintain function. The balance here lies in variety, for no single protein source carries all the essential amino acids, but together they form a complete repertoire. Fats, often misunderstood, are equally vital. They provide dense energy, protect organs, insulate the body, and form the structure of cell membranes. They also serve as carriers for fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E, and K. Within fats, however, there is variation. Unsaturated fats, found in foods like olive oil, avocados, and fish, tend to support cardiovascular health. Saturated fats, common in animal products, can be part of a balanced diet in moderation, though excess may strain the body's systems. Trans fats, created through industrial processing, disrupt balance and are best avoided. The harmony of fats lies not in exclusion but in proportion, ensuring that the types most supportive of health predominate. Beyond macronutrients lie micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals required in smaller amounts but no less essential. Iron carries oxygen, calcium strengthens bones, iodine supports thyroid function, and zinc plays a role in immunity. Vitamins, too, guide countless reactions, from vitamin C's role in collagen synthesis to vitamin D's influence on calcium absorption and bone health. These compounds, though tiny in amount, serve as catalysts and guardians, keeping metabolism and repair running smoothly. Deficiency in even one can ripple through the body, while adequacy supports quiet stability. Water, though sometimes overlooked, is the most fundamental nutrient of all. It forms the medium in which all biochemical reactions occur, regulates temperature, transports nutrients, and removes waste. Every cell is bathed in it, and every process depends on it. Unlike food, which can be stored, water must be replenished steadily, for even slight imbalance can affect concentration, energy, and health. To drink water is to renew the foundation of metabolism itself. The microbiome also plays a role in nutrition, reminding us again of the interwoven nature of life. Certain fibers, often called prebiotics, are not digested by human enzymes, but are fermented by gut bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids that nourish the colon and influence metabolism. Probiotic foods, such as yogurt, kefir, and fermented vegetables, introduce beneficial microbes, enhancing diversity and resilience in the gut ecosystem. Thus, nutrition is not only what the body consumes, but also what the body and its microbial partners create together. Balance in nutrition is not rigid but adaptive. A person's needs shift with age, activity, and circumstance. Children require greater amounts of protein and calcium to build growing bodies. Adults may need more attention to maintaining muscle and supporting energy balance. In older age, absorption may decline, making vitamins like B12 or minerals like calcium especially important. Likewise, during pregnancy, the body adjusts to nourish both mother and child, requiring added folate, iron, and overall energy. Nutrition, then, is not a single formula, but a flexible harmony, tuned to the moment of life. The rhythm of meals also shapes balance. Regular eating allows blood sugar and metabolism to remain steady, while erratic patterns can create strain. Meals that combine carbohydrates with proteins, fats, and fibers provide slower release of energy. In this way, balance is achieved not only through what is eaten, but how foods are paired, how meals are timed, and how the body is allowed to digest in peace. In essence, nutrition is the meeting point between the world and the self. The minerals in our bones were once stone, washed into soil, and drawn up by plants. The carbon in our muscles once moved through the air as carbon dioxide, transformed by sunlight into sugars. With every meal, the earth, the air, and the sun are taken in and transformed into human form. To consider nutrition is to remember that we are part of a larger cycle, dependent on the gifts of nature and connected to it with every bite. As we prepare to move onward, we will shift from the balance of nutrients to the rhythm of digestion itself. The daily patterns of hunger, appetite, and rest that govern not only how the body receives nourishment, but how it conserves energy and restores itself. 18. The rhythm of digestion and rest. Digestion is not a constant activity, but one that moves with the body's natural rhythms. Just as the heart beats in cycles and the lungs breathe in waves, the digestive system follows patterns of activity and rest. These rhythms ensure that the body is not overwhelmed by continuous work, but instead processes nourishment at the right times, conserves energy between meals, and restores balance during periods of fasting and sleep. To reflect on these patterns is to see how deeply the digestive system is woven into the flow of daily life. At the heart of this rhythm are circadian cycles, the internal clocks that guide nearly every process in the human body, governed in part by the rise and fall of light. Circadian rhythms align digestion with the day's activity. During the morning and daylight hours, the body tends to prepare for eating. Gastric secretions increase, enzymes are more readily released, and the intestines show greater activity. At night, as the body turns toward rest, digestive processes slow, allowing energy to shift toward repair and renewal. In this way, the digestive system participates in the greater rhythm of day and night, ebbing and flowing with the cycle of the sun. The rhythm of meals further shapes digestion. When food is consumed at regular intervals, the stomach and intestines anticipate the arrival of nutrients, releasing hormones and enzymes in preparation. This anticipation is not imagined but physiological, guided by signals from the nervous system. Regular patterns bring steadiness, while irregular eating can disrupt the harmony, leaving the system unprepared or overburdened. A calm, predictable rhythm of meals allows digestion to proceed with less strain and nutrients to be absorbed more efficiently. Between meals, the digestive system is not idle, but shifts into a mode of cleansing and maintenance. This activity, known as the migrating motor complex, sweeps through the small intestine in waves, clearing away residual food and bacteria, preventing stagnation, and preparing the ground for the next meal. These quiet cycles of motion are strongest when the body is fasting, reminding us that rest is not emptiness but an active period of renewal. Sleep itself plays a profound role in the rhythm of digestion. During deep rest, the stomach and intestines slow their activity, conserving energy for other processes. Blood flow shifts toward repair, supporting the lining of the gut, strengthening immunity, and restoring tissues that work tirelessly during the day. Without adequate sleep, these restorative processes are shortened, and digestion may become less efficient. Thus, rest is not separate from digestion, but part of its natural cycle, ensuring that the system remains healthy over time. Hunger and appetite are also guided by rhythm. Hormones such as ghrelin rise before meals, creating the sensation of hunger, while leptin signals fullness and energy sufficiency. These hormones interact with the body's clocks, rising and falling, with patterns of wakefulness and rest. When meals are consistent, the balance of hunger and satiety is smoother, while irregular patterns can confuse the signals, leading to overeating or loss of appetite. Harmony in daily rhythm brings harmony in hunger, supporting balance without force. Fasting, whether overnight or for longer periods, highlights another aspect of rhythm. During fasting, insulin levels fall, fat stores are gently mobilized, and the body shifts toward conserving and renewing. Cells increase their repair processes, breaking down damaged components and recycling them. This quiet housekeeping, known as autophagy, is encouraged by periods of rest from eating. In this way, the rhythm of nourishment and fasting creates balance. One period to receive and build, another to clear and restore. The nervous system, too, guides these cycles. The parasympathetic branch, often called the rest and digest system, calms the body and promotes digestive activity. The sympathetic branch, or fight or flight system, slows digestion during stress, diverting energy toward immediate action. In daily life, balance between the two ensures that digestion unfolds during moments of calm, while rest and restoration follow. Stress, when prolonged, can disrupt this rhythm, reminding us of the importance of relaxation and steady breathing in maintaining harmony. These rhythms extend beyond the individual to the wider world. In many cultures, meals follow the sun lighter in the morning, fuller in the midday, gentler in the evening. This alignment with natural cycles reflects wisdom carried across generations, recognizing that the body digests best when it moves with the day rather than against it. To eat in rhythm with light and rest is to echo the patterns of nature, joining the body's inner clocks with the turning of the earth. To contemplate the rhythm of digestion is to see the body as more than a machine that processes food. It is a living system, attuned to time, balancing work and rest, cleansing and renewal. Each cycle of eating, fasting, and sleeping is an act of harmony, one that sustains energy while preserving health. To follow these rhythms with gentleness is to support not only digestion but the whole body. For when digestion is in balance, so too is the mind, the immune system, and the energy of daily life. As we continue our lecture, we will move beyond the rhythms of digestion itself and consider its connections to the wider body, exploring how the digestive system speaks with the nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system, forming an intricate web of communication that keeps the whole body in balance. 19. Connections between digestion and the whole body. As we near the final stages of our exploration, it becomes clear that the digestive system does not work in isolation. While it has its own organs, enzymes, and rhythms, its influence extends throughout the body, touching nearly every system. The act of digestion is more than the processing of food, it is a form of communication, a dialogue between the gut and the rest of the human organism. To understand these connections is to see digestion not as a separate chapter, but as a thread woven into the entire fabric of life. One of the most intimate connections is between the digestive and the nervous system, sometimes called the second brain. The gut contains its own network of nerves, known as the enteric nervous system. This intricate web of neurons, numbering in the hundreds of millions, can coordinate digestion independently, regulating peristalsis, secretion, and reflexes. Yet it also communicates constantly with the central nervous system through the vagus nerve, a pathway of signals that travels both ways. Through this gut-brain axis, digestion influences mood, stress, and even sleep, while the brain, in turn, shapes appetite, cravings, and motility. In moments of calm, the parasympathetic system supports rest and digest, while stress activates the sympathetic system, slowing digestion until safety returns. The endocrine system, too, is deeply intertwined with digestion. Hormones such as insulin and glucagon regulate blood sugar, guiding the storage and release of energy. Gastrin stimulates gastric secretions. Secretin and cholecystokinin orchestrate bile and pancreatic release, and ghrelin and leptin balance hunger and satiety. These chemical messengers carry information from one organ to another, ensuring that timing remains precise. The endocrine system translates the presence of food into signals that reach every cell, reminding us that digestion is not confined to the gut but ripples through the entire body. The immune system finds a particularly strong connection in the digestive tract. Nearly 70% of the body's immune cells reside in the gut, patrolling the mucosal lining, learning to distinguish friend from foe. The gut microbiome plays an essential role in training this system, introducing the immune cells to harmless microbes and teaching tolerance. At the same time, the gut serves as a barrier, preventing harmful pathogens from entering the bloodstream. In this way, digestion and immunity are inseparable, each shaping the other. A balanced microbiome supports immune calm, while disruptions can lead to overreaction or weakness. Circulation forms another link, carrying absorbed nutrients from the intestines to the liver and then outward to tissues. Blood delivers glucose to muscles, amino acids to cells in need of repair, and lipids to storage or use. The circulatory system also removes waste, carrying carbon dioxide and metabolic byproducts to the lungs, kidneys, and skin. Without this constant exchange, the work of digestion would remain incomplete, for it is circulation that distributes the fruits of absorption to the entire body. The skeletal system, though seemingly distant from digestion, also depends upon it. Calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and vitamin D, drawn from food and regulated through digestion, are required to maintain the strength and renewal of bones. Without steady absorption, the skeleton would weaken, reminding us that every step we take is supported by the invisible flow of nutrients through the gut. Similarly, the muscular system relies on amino acids absorbed from proteins, as well as glycogen derived from glucose, to contract and move. Even the skin reflects the health of digestion. Vitamins such as A, C, and E, absorbed from food, support collagen formation and protect against oxidative stress. The balance of hydration, guided in part by electrolytes from the gut, influences the skin's softness and resilience. The connection may not always be immediate, but over time the nourishment provided through digestion radiates outward, visible in complexion and tone. These interconnections remind us that the body is not a collection of separate parts but an integrated whole. When digestion falters, energy, immunity, mood, and resilience may all be affected. When digestion flows smoothly, the entire body benefits, from the clarity of thought to the steadiness of movement. The gut, then, is not only a channel for food, but a hub of communication, sending signals, nutrients, and harmony outward. There is also a wider perspective. Digestion connects the body not only to itself, but to the natural world. The energy released in cells once belonged to plants, stored from sunlight. The minerals carried in the blood were once stone, dissolved into soil. The amino acids in muscles were once part of grains, legumes, or animals that themselves fed on plants. Every heartbeat, every step, every breath is therefore linked to the cycles of earth and sun, woven through digestion into human life. To contemplate these connections is to feel the body not as an isolated self, but as part of a web, inwardly and outwardly. Within, every organ speaks to the gut and listens in return. Without, every meal ties us to ecosystems, seasons, and cycles far larger than ourselves. Digestion is the point of meeting, the place where the outside world becomes part of us, and where our health depends upon balance, harmony, and flow. As we move to the final part of our lecture, we will reflect on digestion not only as biology, but as a quiet story of continuity, a process that begins anew each day, carrying us gently forward in the cycle of nourishment and renewal. 20. Conclusion. The continuous cycle of nourishment. As our journey through the digestive system comes to a close, it is fitting to pause and reflect on the story we have traced. From the first taste of food in the mouth, through the long passage of transformation in the stomach and intestines, to the final release of waste, digestion reveals itself not as a series of isolated steps, but as a flowing, continuous cycle. It is a rhythm that sustains life quietly, day after day, linking us to the natural world and to ourselves in ways both visible and unseen. Every bite of food represents more than sustenance. It carries within it the energy of the sun, captured by plants through photosynthesis and stored in the bonds of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. It carries the minerals of the earth, lifted from stone into soil, drawn up into roots and leaves, and then passed into our bodies to form bones and teeth. It carries the labor of microbes, breaking down fibers into nourishing compounds and teaching the immune system wisdom and tolerance. In each meal, we take into ourselves the work of countless living systems, and through digestion, we make them part of our own being. The digestive system is not merely a channel, but a place of transformation. Here, food becomes thought, movement, warmth, and growth. Molecules once scattered in the air and soil are gathered into cells, woven into tissues, and animated into life. What cannot be used is released, returned to the earth, where it will again become part of cycles far larger than any one individual. To reflect on digestion is to recognize that nothing is lost, that every element is recycled, and that life continues not in isolation, but in continuity. Within the body, digestion is also a story of cooperation. Teeth, tongue, stomach, liver, pancreas, intestines, and microbiome, each plays its part, each contributing its gift. No organ works alone, and no stage of digestion stands apart. Hormones and nerves provide signals, circulation distributes nutrients, and immunity safeguards the delicate tissues that absorb the outside world. The result is a system that does not merely process food but orchestrates harmony, ensuring that energy flows where it is needed, that tissues are repaired, and that balance is preserved. Beyond biology, digestion carries lessons of rhythm and patience. It reminds us that the body thrives not on haste, but on cycles of activity and rest, nourishment and fasting, work and renewal. It teaches that balance is not rigid but adaptive, shifting with age, activity, and circumstance. It shows that even in silence, countless processes are unfolding, transforming each moment into vitality. To rest with this knowledge is to see the body as part of a greater web. The food we eat connects us to the soil, to the air, to the sun, and to the communities of life that share this earth. The bacteria in our gut are reminders of ancient partnerships, companions that have walked with humanity for millennia. The energy released in our cells was once part of a larger cycle, now flowing through us before it continues onward. Thus, the digestive system is more than an inner process. It is a quiet meditation on connection. Each meal is a reminder of the interdependence of life, of the generosity of nature, and of the balance that sustains existence. Each act of digestion is a renewal, a chance to transform what the world offers into the energy that carries us forward. As we close this 2-hour lecture, let the thought settle gently. Digestion is not simply about food, but about life itself. It is a cycle without end, a symphony without pause, unfolding with every heartbeat and every breath. To drift into rest with this awareness is to feel held by continuity, sustained by rhythms that have guided living beings for countless generations. And so, as you lie in quiet reflection, the story of digestion continues within you, steady and calm. The mouth, the stomach, the intestines, the liver, the microbiome, all are at work, not hurried, not strained, but flowing in balance. In this endless cycle of nourishment, the body finds its strength, its renewal,